When you add flame retardants, what you're doing is replacing these incredibly reactive free radicals with much less reactive free radicals, which can't process the amount of chemistry in the time, and therefore you're left with the same products of incomplete combustion. And these are really the horrible products from fire: the carbon monoxide, the hydrogen cyanide, the small organic molecules, acrolein, formaldehyde, partially oxidized organics, leading all the way up to soot particles and tar particles, many of which include polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, these carcinogenic materials, which have been shown to cause high incidence of cancer in firefighting.
Chemical flame retardants are used in many household products. They are used to delay the onset of fires. They're used in electrical goods, buildings, but the ones that we are most concerned about at the moment as a charity are the flame retardants that are used in our upholstered furniture. And we know that these chemicals, or some of them, are harmful to human and environmental health, and they can be lost from our furniture items. And they've been shown to persist in our homes. They're found in the dust, carpets that toddlers will crawl around on. They end up in the wider environment, and unfortunately, when they do end up in the wider environment, they're able to bioaccumulate along food chains, causing significant health impacts. So there's health impacts on people that have been researched. So there's adverse health concerns such as neurotoxicity, carcinogenesis, and even skin complaints like allergies. So we really need to make sure that we only use safe flame retardants with low toxicity, or ideally reduce the amount of flame retardants in furniture presently.
Because you're talking about the dangers from them without even a fire incident, just them sort of leaching out in everyday life and causing issues, and I think those sort of neurological issues sound particularly concerning.
Yes.
Richard, I've come to you as to, what are some of the issues that can happen after a fire or during a fire in terms of the toxicity of these products and the smoke they produce?
Well, first of all, thank you, Joe, for that nice explanation. When people talk about flame retardant toxicity, they are talking almost always about the environmental and human toxicity of flame retardants outside a fire. We found that some flame retardants, particularly those that act in the gas phase, also make smoke much, much more toxic. And just to go back, if you can stand a bit of an explanation, and this is a little bit chemical, in a fire, in a perfect fire, you have free radicals, a tiny number of free radicals, which are incredibly reactive, which will then break down the fuel into oxygen. Break down the fuel, react with oxygen very, very quickly, and then produce carbon dioxide and water. And in, for example, the boiler in your house, or in a Bunsen burner, or in a candle flame, that's pretty much what you have. But then in the absence of oxygen, you get not enough fuel. The fuel isn't oxidized completely to this best case of carbon dioxide and water. And then you get more carbon monoxide and more smoke and more soot. And that is typical of the kind of underventilated burning that you might get in a closed room after the fire has developed. When you add flame retardants, what you're doing is replacing these incredibly reactive free radicals with much less reactive free radicals, which can't process the amount of chemistry in the time, and therefore you're left with the same products of incomplete combustion. And these are really the horrible products from fire: the carbon monoxide, the hydrogen cyanide, the small organic molecules, acrolein, formaldehyde, partially oxidized organics, leading all the way up to soot particles and tar particles, many of which include polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, these carcinogenic materials, which have been shown to cause high incidence of cancer in firefighters.
Yeah, and it's sort of talking about the cancerous issues there. Are there issues as well with sort of incapacitation and things, or are you more worried about the long-term impacts, such as cancer?
I think as a society we have always been more focused on the short-term hazards from fire, which is, if you like, someone being rescued from a fire and taken out of that fire safely and surviving maybe for 2 weeks after that. And that is the acute fire toxicity. The fire toxicity so the first thing that can happen is that either carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide, or acid gases can make it so unpleasant that you can't escape. So if, for example, you're in a hotel that's on fire, you open the door, you just see smoke and horrible tasting gases outside, you tend to shut the hotel door, and what could have been those valuable minutes that you could escape are lost. Or you attempt to escape, but then you pass out as a result of inhaling carbon monoxide and hydrogen cyanide, because at a fairly low dose they will incapacitate you, causing unconsciousness. Okay, then as you continue to breathe, you will then finally die and you'll succumb to the toxicity of the gases. So the first thing that happens is incapacitation. The second thing that happens is death. And if that doesn't occur within a short time of you being rescued, then that is considered a good outcome from a firefighter point of view. We have no idea how many people who are caught in fires then maybe a couple of years later succumb to cancer. But we know that there are carcinogens in what they breathed in, and they might get a fairly heavy dose from a severe fire.
Yeah, because it all sounds very nasty and very concerning, but as you mentioned earlier, the point of the chemical fire flame retardants is to reduce the impact of the fire. But is that actually improving life safety, or is it overall?
Could I correct you on that?
Yeah,
and just say the way flame retardants have evolved, they've been designed to meet standard tests, and so they don't reduce the impact of the fire so much as reduce the likelihood of the fire. So they are best at suppressing ignition, and at their worst once the fire has taken hold. And then there is really nothing you can do if you have maybe 10 or 20% flame retardants in a piece of furniture. There's nothing you can do to reduce the 80% of that fuel from burning once the fire's taken hold.
Yeah, because you've still got that fuel there, and you haven't removed it, so that potential energy is still there in the room. Yeah, Joe, if I come to you for this one, if we did remove chemical flame retardants, would that improve life safety potentially, or was
So there's little evidence actually to suggest that the use of these chemical flame retardants that the UK furniture industry has had to rely on to pass stringent tests, that they actually lead to fewer deaths. So it's a bit of a paradox, really, because these flame retardants are supposed to save lives, but the evidence is lacking, and there appears to be more evidence and research suggesting that they exacerbate the fire smoke toxicity for the reasons that Richard had talked about. So we really need government to think about how they can do more to reduce these chemical flame retardants if the current regulations are not improving safety, let's say.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Richard?
Absolutely, yes. We've seen a drop-off with flame retardant use in the UK, but that flame retardant, the fire death has decreased at the same rate for